And we're back for another edition of the Michigan Insider Football Breakdown, looking at the University of Michigan. It's now 2-0 on the season as they just defeated the Washington Huskies 31-10. And for our defensive breakdown, as we introduced last week, guy that I turn to when I have questions about defensive football. He has molded some of the greats in Michigan history and beyond Michigan as well. Has defensive coordinator chops across the board from Oklahoma State to Louisville to Texas. Of course, he's had a couple stints at Michigan. Now happily retired. Vance Bedford is back with us. Vance, how are you?
Doing outstanding. Have beautiful weather here in Loveland, Colorado. High 75 today and no humidity. Can't beat it. Come visit me out here, baby.
I hear you. And then we got Al Borges, gorgeous, whose coordinator resume is too lengthy to recite. Let's just say he's coordinated in a number of spots. Isn't that right, Al?
Yeah, but most people think I'm uncoordinated, Sam. So whatever. That's
So, guys, this week 2 was definitely a stiffer test for Michigan, as you know, taking on the Washington Huskies. Although the Huskies had just lost to Montana, so I think nationally, even locally amongst the fan base, they were kind of looking at this game as a team that Michigan should beat. And as the game unfolded, Vance, it felt like defensively, for the most part, they were in control the whole game.
They really were. I know a lot of people were concerned about the size of Washington's offensive line. And as we talked a little bit last week, the best thing that we do defensively, we move a lot. We angle, we slant, then we go vertical. We bring people from different angles. So that keeps big offensive linemen thinking about what they have to do, which slows them down. And to be honest, they're already big and slow, and they really slowed down. So play to a big advantage to our quick players up front.
Jim, after the game, said they threw a lot at them offensively, a lot formation-wise, a lot movement-wise. Did you know that? Did you notice that? And I asked that question because, again, guys, it felt like Michigan handled all of their movement or multiple formations. It felt like they handled that very well. Good communication on the defensive side of the ball.
I thought they were pretty simple. I saw a 2-back set, some spread formations. The biggest thing I thought was formations to the sideline. They put more receivers there and motion back to the field. But again, I didn't think it was very complicated. I always tell guys, if you count to 3, you can play for me. And from cornerback to safety to the linebackers, all you got to do is count to 3. It tells you how to get a line. So to me, that's not a problem. They were very simple, I thought, on offense. And that's because of what we do defensively. We pressure a lot. That makes you simplify your offense.
Okay. All right. So let's look at the first play. Let's start with the first play. And this was a sign of past the delay of game, of course, that they started the game with. But the very first defensive snap for Michigan wound up being a tackle for loss for them. And fellas, it felt like it was downhill from there as far as Washington was concerned the rest of the day. So I'm going to bring this play up. All right, Vance, I call this blowing up the split zone. Blowing up the split zone. This is the very first snap, 1st and 15 for the Washington Huskies. So here we go.
Okay, if you look at it, the design of this defense, we have everybody to the line of scrimmage. So right now, it's zone because to the boundary, the will backers walked out to the 2 receivers to the boundary. Mm-hmm. And the strong safety's up and the outside linebackers up. So right now, it's either going to be 3 zone or zone pressure from the field. And this is the zone pressure from the field, bringing the strong safety, the Sam, and angling the entire defensive line to the boundary. So they don't have enough guys to block this defense. And there's the angle. The back is dropping outside. And we're playing 3 zone behind it. This is a great run stopper here. And I wish I was coaching against a 2-back set. I would have some cake and ice cream right now.
But then, your mic playing off of that.
The mic is clean because of what the front does. The nose does a great job in this angle technique, getting across the center, so there's nobody to block the mic. He is free to the ball. But they don't have enough guys in this particular play to block these guys. And so we start the game off with a great tackle for a loss. And to me, You're right. It was downhill after that. Our defensive line knew now we can dominate these big, slow-footed guys from the West Coast.
All right. So as you let the play roll.
Oh, great job. Great job by the backer. Great job by the blitzer. We have somebody on everybody. This is a nice play.
So I guess you know right away, Vance. I mean, you said it. They don't have enough players to block that. Al, I mean, is that your quarterback needing to make a check? Is that your coordinator? I mean, they don't look like a check with me anyway, but Vance knew right away we're going to blow this play up.
Well, you got to either check it or I don't know, call a better play. That's got no chance in hell. I mean, not only they're slanting to the split zone, and you can't even if they hand it off the reverse, there's two guys outside to play that. I mean, you got to get out of that. That's a kill play where nothing looks good. Go to something looks better, or have a play.
The only way they could block that if the center would have cut off the slant, there's a crease in there.
Yeah,
but I don't think the center realized the slant was coming, so he never had a chance to block the guy.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems when you get a big movement team, it affects the psyche of the offensive line's ability to come off. They're always wondering where the hell the opponent's going to be, you know, because the big guys they want a target, and they don't want a target that moves a lot. The less it moves, the happier they are. But when they're slanting or they're slashing or they're long sticking or doing whatever they're doing, but they're just not sitting still, it's just a little bit more tedious for a 320-pound guy to have to redirect or depend on his buddy to help him.
Yeah. So this was a showcase game for Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, he's off to a roaring start this season. He came out of this game with 2.5 sacks. But to me, probably his most impressive play was a play that he didn't register a stat, Vance, because it showed what a high level he's. I mean, the game, he's thinking it. He's thinking the game and playing the game at the same time. And it was a play. So let's back up and show the people a play that Michigan scored on. So Michigan scored in week 1 on this Bluff play. And I want to show this play as an example of what defensive ends typically do. And Vance, you can talk us through maybe how you would coach your guys to play this, because I imagine it puts a lot of guys, a lot of coordinators, gives them fits about what they should do. But this is one that we actually telestrated. This is a Bluff play that Michigan scored on. And then Vance, you can sort of tell me how you would try to defend this as a defensive coordinator, right? So this winds up being like a reverse to the receiver, and you'll see the defensive end get totally lost on this play because it's a Bluff play. All right. So we highlighted the 5 technique. Comes out, he bluffs that 5 tech, and then it's off to the races for now again, Vance. I laughed at this, and I laughed at it, and I probably shouldn't because I'd never done it. And I imagine that a bunch of defensive ends, man, get caught up this way. He thinks it's a split zone. He's caught in the middle of the field. He got sucked inside by the action. All right.
Well, it's twofold. A lot of people teach if the front side guy pulls, whether it be a guard or tackle, you don't spill the football. So for that guy is wrong from the start. So he went to spill something. He shouldn't have even gone down inside. They pull the front side guard, so he should stay outside the guard.
They pull the center. They pull the center.
Yeah, they pull the center. He should stay out. As he squeezes, he should stay outside the center. Mm-hmm. And that's the first problem. So he's wrong from the start. Most D-line coaches I've been around, if a center to the front side guard or tackle pull, they don't spill. They stay outside to pull it and turn it back to the rest of the defense. So from my standpoint as coaching, he's wrong from the start. They don't have a chance right now. Okay. And so now you have a safety sitting deep. They got a clean shot on the linebacker. They start blocking the receiver. They're in trouble. It starts with that front side defensive end. He should have been up the field right now.
All right. All right. So now let's go to Michigan versus Washington and look at them trying to bluff Aiden Hutchinson. All right, Vance. So here we go. It is 1st and 10. And they are going to try to get outside of Aiden Hutchinson. He won't let them.
Okay, as you can see, we can right now the Sam backer, which he's playing technically in the safety. So we roll into a 3 zone. They're going to angle the defensive line to the boundary. He's coming off the edge. And we go into a strong 3D roll here. So it's a great call for this play. I mean, they did a great job holding that cover for the Skies, moving around.
Mm-hmm.
But again, 2-back set, no tight end to the field. I love this as a defensive coordinator.
All right. So now as this rolls, Vance, they're clearly expecting Aiden Hutchinson to get sucked inside here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we go.
He stays square. That is a great job. And I also want to give credit to the guys coaching him, because a lot of times you tell a player to go spill the football. That means they try to hit it right down the middle of the wrong shoulder. He stayed square, which means he stayed alive. He could defend inside and now react outside. And with the safety coming down, they have 2-on-1, and the safety's unblocked with help inside out from the linebacker. That's a great defensive play by him and also by the safety. Just great fundamental play.
So Al, as the offensive guy here, I mean, is it wrong to think that he thought he wasn't going to have to block him? Your fullback, he thought he wasn't going to have to block Aiden Hutchinson. Am I right with that?
Well, yeah, that's whole idea is you're trying to finesse the 5. You're trying to get the 5 to squeeze enough so you can bluff him. He's got to sell the split zone so he gets him to shuffle hard inside, then he can go around him. He's got to know that if he doesn't take the bait, you have to engage him, and the ball gets kicked back inside. The play is not near as good because you want the edge on the play. It's got to be sold as a split zone, but the kid's just too smart. What he does, he starts to squeeze half a beat, but he sees the whole picture, and he sees that the ball's coming back, so he doesn't get caught inside, and he pushes everything back into the inside of the defense. Well, the play when he goes inside, like it's just not near as good a play. It's a play where you want to flank the spill, and if you can't spill it, if it's not spilled or he doesn't over squeeze, the stock of the play goes down. It's that simple.
Yes,
They were running, Sam. They were running quarters coverage that play. They had to play, but again, they got a stunt coming from the field, and they bring the safety down.
Yeah.
So you had a perfect call for that particular play. If they were running just a normal cover 4, and he's coming off the edge, they actually have a successful offensive play possibly right here. But you had a safety rolling down. They're in a strong 3 zone. You had an extra person coming down. They had no blocker for him. But again, with the defensive end staying square, he can play underneath it and push the ball vertically. It's tackling practice. So it was a perfect call for what was happening on that particular play. We had one more defender there than they had to block it.
This is one of the reasons, Sam, when we ran that play, we never ran it wide field because we knew we were going to get more rotations wide than we were short side. Mm-hmm. We would bunch the formation to the field, which rarely would get a weak side rotating safety. There were teams that would do that, I guess, occasionally, but not much. So we always knew there was a possibility of an alley into the short side of the field. So if we got the bluff, the reverse was clean. As soon as you set the formation to the boundary, now you're risking more rotations into the field. Vance is saying as the safety stayed deep, the play's got a chance no matter what happened with the end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. All right. So, man, here we have you guys are really indicting the offensive play callers from Washington, because this is the second play. It was like there's no way this is gonna work. You got too many defenders here. They don't have enough guys.
Well, in defense now, because Michigan ran it for a touchdown to the wide field a week ago, but they added a blocker by pulling the center. Yeah. So they could actually account for the safety even if he rolled down, where Washington could not.
So that's a further indictment, though, of the Washington coordinator.
That's just a scheme. It's what you believe in as a scheme. I mean, it really was a different play for Michigan compared to what we just saw for Washington.
Gotcha. All right. Let's move on, and now we will look at a play that Vance. I was very interested in how you would break it down. It was they faked the blitz, and then they were able to snuff out where the quarterback wanted to go with the cross. So it's 3rd and 8.
3rd and 8.
All right. Set this up here. All right, take it away, Vance.
So right now, as the quarterback comes to the line of scrimmage, he's looking at the look. He's looking at man. He's looking at pressure. So he sees a guy walked up on 87, a guy walked up on 83, and a safety right behind him. So he's thinking they bring him 5, maybe 6, and they were playing man free behind it. So he's thinking pressure right now. So this is a great look by the Michigan defense. As you see, he's looking at the post safety. He's in the post, middle open to close. And now he looks at the backer, walked up. So he's thinking they bring him 5, maybe 6. That's what they did the week before.
Mm-hmm.
And now they got a perfect call for a blitz, a shallow crossing route by the receiver. But look at the safety roll down and rock him. He doubles that guy. So there's nowhere to go to football, which buys time for the front to get home. And you can see great pressure by the front 4. If you can get home with the front 4 and cover with 7 on the back end, you're going to be pretty good defensively. But again, it goes back to the previous week where they showed a lot of pressure and they came quite often. So you get a lot of shallow crossing. If I'm playing at the University of Michigan, compared to the last 2 years, these are the type of routes I'm going to run on Michigan. Can they stop my shallow crossing routes? And this is a great call again, and great coverage in the back end with a great pressure up front. So the cross is double.
Mm-hmm. That's where he wanted to go.
Yes. It was a 2-man route. Again, with all the pressure they showed the previous week, they went max protection. And they ran 2-man routes. So defensively, you just won that battle.
Okay. All right.
It makes you a real good defensive coach really fast when you're running 2-man routes in 2021. I love that. Keep on doing what you're doing, fellas.
All right. I mean, getting very high marks so far. And then you pointed out something, Vance, as we were talking. They said, defensive linemen, they don't just, hey, shoot this gap. They're reading keys too up front. This is a thinking man's game in the trenches too. You pointed out, Vance. And so this was one where a young fella who's getting a lot of burn in this early season. His dad played in the league. You remember Big Chris Jenkins?
Yes, I do.
Man, this is his son. So big defensive lineman for years. He was a space eater in the middle. His son is a little bit lighter, a lot lighter, but he is starting to make some big plays for Michigan's defense. Young fella named Chris Jenkins. So let's pull this play up. You guys got that on the screen?
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and get the play started. All right, there you go. 3rd
down in 1 situation, so you're thinking run. But this is a great job by this young man reading the tackle in front of him. The tackle is trying to zone down inside. He comes off of his hip. The tight end to the field, they run a split zone. It's coming to block him. He comes underneath him. And here's a diagram to show it. So it's really key to stopping this play. And to be honest, the entire front won. Across the board, they all won. But this is a great job of a young player reading his key, flattening out, spilling the split zone. And I think that's the key to the play. If he goes up the field, a back has a chance to cut back. So this is a great job by him. But I know if Al was calling plays, he'd have checked to a pass. Look at that front, Al. You got a chance. Let's throw the football, baby. That's a great job by a young defensive end. He was key to making that stop.
I mean, Vance, you were saying during the game, it's like, man, that's a bad football team. Vance was saying, that's a bad football team over there, man. I mean, as you hear these plays broken down, I was like, woo, great call here, great call there. Guys making great individual plays, not checking out of plays. Man, I mean, Michigan had them confounded. But you know what? Jimmy Lake said something after the game. He said, we had very limited film on them. I mean, you got a guy coming from the Ravens. We watched some Ravens film. but we didn't know what they were going to do.
Mhm.
So we were limited in we were limited in scope of offense. He said that was his explanation. I don't know if fans really buy it or not, but you guys, as guys who have called plays for teams, does that make sense to you that, you know what, maybe they couldn't do a whole lot of checking and a whole lot of modifying of plays because they just weren't prepared for what Michigan was going to be bringing to the table? That makes sense to you guys?
That could
I'm
be.
gonna let Al answer that question. Go ahead, Al. You have that.
That could be legitimate. But my point to that would be I'd have a little more tendency to check some plays, not knowing exactly what you're going to get and giving them a little variation. But playing away, I understand that problem too with trying, dealing with crowd noise and all that. But there's some legitimacy to that. But one thing about it, at the end of the day, they got a very experienced offensive line and should, at one point in time during the game, be able to adjust. I mean, Michigan was playing 3-4 with movement. They were playing some 4-2 looks with some movement. For the most part, when you've played the offensive line as long as most of those guys have, you've seen a lot of the looks you're getting. Now, there's always the possibility of a surprise blitz in there. Everybody has their game plan pressures. But for the most part, if you block by your rules, you should have a chance. So I would say there's some legitimacy in that you haven't really seen them play a lot, but by the same token, you're not playing with a bunch of neophytes.
Mm-hmm.
So those kids have to be able to make those adjustments and still get play started.
So
the only thing I add to that though is that if you go back to the first ball game, you saw some of the same basic defensive calls. You really did. It's a lot of movement, and that's what it's based on. It's also overloading blitzes from one side to the other. And a lot of times we point out where the two safeties are. So if they're running quarters or they're running some type of zone pressure. So again, from an offensive standpoint, you can look at those things. So number one, they're going to do a lot of angling and slanting. And the secondary is going to tell you real fast what it is. So based off of that, off of one game, you could probably make some checks. Let's get to the outside, or let's try to throw in their corner, see can they cover. Let's spread them out. The one thing that you don't want to do is bring everybody in tight, because now you have no idea what stunt's coming from. And that's old school thinking, is that, well, we're going to get bunch formations because now they won't blitz you. That's the best formation of blitz because you don't know where it's coming from. Everybody's around the football right now. They did some of that and it played into the hands of what Michigan wanted to do defensively. Mm-hmm. The one thing is, I watched the game, the Michigan defense was not concerned about the ball being thrown over their heads. So as a defense coordinator, and you see that, you have a tendency to play more aggressively on defense as far as your calls, and that's what you saw in the ball game. You didn't see a lot of speed from their receivers out wide. Mm-hmm. And because of that, it's an easier game for a defense coordinator to call. You're going to take more chances because they came into the game saying, we are bigger, we're going to run the football. You play right into Michigan's hands. They ran overload stunts the entire ball game to stop the run game.
Gotcha. All right, so now, Coach, now let's talk about, there were a few plays that in practice you'd be like, okay, fellas, we got to clean this up. And so there were two such instances that you really highlighted in the film study of Vance. One of those, let's look at, was a touchdown, right? And so you talked about the easy release that was allowed here first and foremost. All right, Vance, you talked about the easy release on this play.
Okay, it's a 3rd down and 6. So right now, the quarterback is looking at the two guys who walked up. I mean, so he knows right now it's pressure. And these two guys, they're actually made on this particular play because they have two guys that's really blitzing the back. One should be inside the back, one should be outside the back. And if that happens, this ball does not get off. So the quarterback knows right now, I got zero pressure. There's nobody in the post. I got one guy pressed, so it's 3-on-3 to the field. So he knows what's about to happen to him right now. But if they execute this blitz the right way, it's going to be a sack. This ball does not get off. And the young freshman DB walked up, pressed on number 3 to the field. All he did is say, well, we're going to put our track shoes on. I'm going to step out of the way and see who's the fastest. Well, he came in second. And that means his nickname is Toast, bring the jelly and the jam, because that equals touchdown. Because you were not faster than the guy on the ball. It's just that simple. So that's why I call guys like that Toast. So he came to the sideline and probably got some kid fashion coaching, and then his coach put his arm around him as he whispered in his ear how much he loved him. So let's see what happens on this particular play.
All right. All right. Well, but his guys up front left him out to dry, though. That's fair to say, right?
They left him out to dry. If they do their job the right way, this ball never gets off. They have two guys on one. They go outside the back and give the quarterback a chance to step up. Quarterback, he sees a safety, nobody in the post. He sees the other safety down in the box. He knows right now they're coming to get me. So watch the two blitzes. They go outside the back. It's a no play. It should be a tackle for, it should be a sack. And now the DB, number 19, like I said, he just stepped out of the way. Say, I see how fast you are. And he came in second. And you get no ribbons for coming in second. You don't even get you can't ride the bus. You're gonna walk home on this touchdown play. Yeah. I'm not feeding you for this.
we get a real glimpse of what it was like to be in the film room with Vance Bedford.
Oh yes.
But this is your point.
Right here.
Vance, these two guys, your two blitzers, they both get blocked by one guy.
If the first guy's supposed to go underneath the back, if he does, and that back steps up to block him, the quarterback can't step up. And now the other guy, he gets a sack. They have 2-on-1. Technically on paper, they have the right call. The execution is what gets you. I had an old coach back in 1982. He always said, if we zero blitz, I never blame the defensive back and they get beat for touchdown. We bring them more than what they can handle. I'm going to blame the guy that's blitzing. So right now, I do blame the guy that's blitzing on this play. This ball has no business getting off. Now, the technique is not great by the nickel back, but really it comes down to the two blitzers did a poor job. They did not execute. What do you think about that situation now?
Yeah, there's no question about it. Is the whole idea is to get it so he can't get it off, or it's so awkward it's inaccurate. You know what I mean? He's got a clean pocket with a zero blitz. And that's a recipe for disaster. He gets to step into the throw. When you got a zero blitz, not very often does the quarterback get to step through the throw. Even if he gets it off, it's usually painful. Somebody either didn't declare the right gap, didn't rush to the right place, or something went wrong, because even if you can block them all, Vance, you can't block them all long.
No, you can't.
Somebody's shaking loose eventually and going to hit your quarterback. So the quarterback's got to know, hey, this might be painful, but it's got to be gone. But it should never look like that. It should never. No. He steps up comfortably and throws the ball down the field, really, without it being touched.
It was like 7-on-7. I mean, it's like stealing it. And Sam, we were talking earlier, I was looking at the Baltimore Ravens game in overtime, and they zero blitz at the last play. Bunch formation, the quarterback check. He dropped deep, and just lobbed one up for a touchdown. Almost the same type of blitz. The back came across and blocked the safety just enough to get the ball off. It was a touchdown. So when you zero blitz and he has time to throw a decent ball, I always blame the guys up front. Get home. We bring in 7 guys for a reason. He has no right to be throwing a great ball like he did.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then there was another play that you called. So put that on your guys up front. Put that on the blitzers for not getting home. Not great technique by your nickel.
Yeah, but in the meeting room, he just got blown up. Keith Sweat was my favorite singer back in the day. And you ask my boys back in the day, say, who covered him? Nobody. I'm just an old school guy. That's all.
Hey, man, I like Keith Sweat too. That's my guy. My wife said, why you like that dude whining all over the radio? The Keith Sweat is my man. So I'm with it. We kindred spirits there, Vance. All right, so let's bring up this. Let's bring up this next one. All right. So this was one though that you didn't put it on the guys up front. You put it solely on the nickel on this play, Vance. Yeah. It's 3rd and 15. So talk us through this.
The quarterback right now, he looks at the two. Are you ready? The quarterback looks at the two safeties. They're deep, no pressure. And he's checking out his key now, once the play starts, is a nickel back. He knows it's a 4-man rush, so he has time. So now he's working one guy, the nickel back. So you're getting really like a double slant or skinny post by 1 and 2 to the field. If the nickel back squeezes, I'll throw it outside. The nickel back squeeze, he threw it outside. The nickel back right now with his alignment, he's aligned outside shade of that receiver. he should expand right now to number one. The Mike back is in great shape for the slot. This should be an interception by the nickel back for a touchdown, but instead, he made a young mistake. He squeezed, he opened up the window for the quarterback. First down on 3rd down and 15. And look how close he was to making that play. If he didn't even move, the ball would hit him in the chest. That's a young mistake there. So I know he got an earful from his coach. Because the quarterback, all he reads is a nickel back. And the nickel back opened up that window for a first down.
Yeah, young fella learning on the fly. But you know what I noticed about that? What is that? The second quarter was that play?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah. This is the second quarter of the game, early in the second quarter. That's a freshman, a true freshman at that, guys, getting quality time. That young fella has come in and jumped a lot of guys on the depth chart, Vance. I watched him in high school. Young fella is, he is legit, has legit speed, legit man-to-man cover skills. And you have some highly regarded guys that he has come out and in one fall camp moved ahead of. So making some mistakes on the job for sure. But man, for him to be in that position tells me something about how well that young man's been practicing.
Well, I'm going to go back to 97. Remember that group? We had 3 freshmen that played a lot. William Peterson, James Whitley, and Dwayne Patman. They all played a lot early. And Whitley plays nickelback here in Charles Woodson. So the nickelback is one of the toughest positions to play because you blitz sometimes, you play zone, you play man-to-man. For a young guy, that could be very difficult. So it's good to take your bumps early and not get into conference play and take bumps. That's how you lose ball games. But he must be very talented and very smart young man to be out there playing. So he learned a lot on a couple of plays. Number one, if I'm pressing, don't give free releases. And number two, if I am playing a deep zone, don't chase routes.
Yeah. All right. There was one play that I have to give this young fella. All right. He's an old fella. I got to give him some credit, right? So we talked a lot about how Aiden was all over the place, 2.5 sacks. I mean, just making plays. The play that we showed where he stops the bluff or he makes the play. Dax got the tackle, but he made the play. But there was another play where he got the sack, but there was another guy on the play where I'm like, man, Jordan Whitley, if that big fella can give them some more of that, they're going to really have something. Young man who transferred over from Oregon State. He didn't play over there last year. He came in to give people a little background. So Jordan Whitley arrived at Michigan 380 pounds, guys, 6'1", 380 pounds, right? So he didn't play last year. He was overweight. He got to camp, and they said, man, you got to lose some weight. He wants to wear number 3. So the story I get is they tell him, you want to wear number 3, you got to get down under 350 pounds in order to do that. By the start of fall camp, he was down in the 360s by the start of fall camp. So when I look out on the field and I see this big fella wearing number 3, I'm thinking he must be down under 350 now because he got a chance to wear that single digit number that he wanted to wear. And on this play, I think he showed some glimpses of what he'll be able to do if he can get the stamina. If he can get the stamina, because Vance, this was something that you noticed immediately too about, man, big fella in the middle got some movement. He got some knockback on this play, even though Aiden Hutchinson got the sack with great effort, and you had great coverage. Coverage and coverage and pressure go hand in hand. I can hear you speaking in my ear right now, Vance. Coverage and pressure go hand in hand. But number 3 on this play, Vance, I think that this big fella deserves some credit right here.
Man, he just knocks the guy straight back. The quarterback can't step up at all. So they got a double on the side, but watch the push. I mean, that right there, that's the key. That's the key for a defensive end to make sacks. When you get pushed like that from your interior people, your defensive ends, it's going to be a field day the entire season for the guys. This is a great job. Look at that. Wow. And of course, being a DB coach, does great coverage in the back end. They double the slot. There's nowhere to go with the football. And again, I think they might have had 2 guys in the backfield again. Somebody call a doctor because I sure wish I could coach again versus a 2-back set. Yeah, it's 2 backs back there. Help me out.
Now, I don't know that they've gotten to the point yet where they're going to play Jordan Whitley for a series, right? I think they're trying to work him up to that conditioning wise, but man, that play right there, I think is what they were looking for. All right. So to close this out, guys, give me your coordinator eyes through 2 weeks of play, strengths and tendencies of this Michigan defense. What do they do well? What are you impressed by? And then what are the things that you look at and say that's something that they need to work on? That's something that they need to tighten up as the competition gets stiffer. So let's start with you, Al, and then we'll work around the Vance. When you look at this defense, what are your impressions? What are you impressed by? And then, of course, what do you see them needing to tighten up on?
Well, they haven't done much wrong in the first 2 weeks. Neither team has moved the ball on them very well. They're playing to run well. They're not afraid to commit people to the box, particularly when you're getting more packed in formations. And unless you can gash them a little bit with some explosive plays, which hasn't happened too much, you can put people in there indiscriminately and stop the run. I don't see a lot of major weaknesses so far. If I had one thing, I would say I don't see a dynamic pass rusher yet. Even Aiden, who's a good player, I mean, a really good player, but is he that magical pass rusher that makes you chip him and do all that other stuff? I don't know. But in nickel situations where they don't want to blitz them all the time, it's nice to know, like Vance says, if you can rush 4 and cover with 7 and you can get home, that's a really good deal for a defensive team. But they seem to be tackling well. Their movement package and their standstill package, when they're not always moving, isn't all bad. Their linebacker play has been solid. One of the issues last year was corners. I mean, every week I heard people complain, but their corners, who are the same guys in some instances, are playing much more confidently. And I think a lot of that is because of some of the pressures. They don't have to cover them forever, and they're just using their skills more than grabbing guys and, getting pass interference, unnecessary pass interferences, which happened a lot a year ago. This is a much more confident team on that side of the ball. And I think, it's going to be more challenging. It's going to get harder. They're going to face better and better offensive teams, but for the first 2 games, they're off to a flying start.
Yeah, I was surprised by the stat that they had for Aiden Hutchinson. I think they had him with 5.5 career sacks. That may have included at the time the sack that he picked up in the first game. And I was surprised by that stat, to your point, because I could see why some would have the impression that he is not yet an elite pass rusher. I think he has the makings of one. I think there's a good chance by the end of the season, people will be calling Aiden Hutchinson an elite pass rusher because we see the ingredients for that on display. Vance, when you look at this defense, what are you impressed by? What are their tendencies? What are their strengths? And then what are the things you think they need to tighten up on?
Number one, from game 1 to 2, I've seen some great improvements. I saw a lot of bust in game 1 as far as guys in the angle and slanting. Sometimes guys would not do it. They did clean that up. So that's one thing I'm really impressed with is that. And Al hit it on the head, man. Great tackling football team. You can tackle well, you eliminate big plays, open field tackle, game tackles, and great pursuit to the football. The guys are flying around and having fun. And I'm still concerned about pass rush. When you're rushing 4, can you win with 4? And I don't know that yet. Right now, they do a great job when they blitz. When they execute, they do a great job. But when you get into the conference, Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana, Minnesota, and you rushing 4, and if you can't get home, can you hold up? And those are things that we don't know just yet. We've seen some busting coverages right now in the first 2 weeks, just rushing 4. The quarterback had time. He's made some plays. So we've got to do a better job up front, winning one-on-one. If we have to blitz every snap to get home, we're going to be in trouble, guys. We really are. I mean, you can't do that. You got to be able to rush 4 and be able to cover with sometimes 7, sometimes 8, and be able to get home and do those type of things. But I'm excited right now from what I'm seeing. I mean, they do a great job mixing up the pressures, zone pressures, man pressures, great with the disguises. And I think they continue to do those things. I think the defense will do quite well this season.
Gotcha. Well, Vance, another great breakdown, man. Appreciate you once again this week. And man, I know what to get you for Christmas. To get you some old school Keith Sweat best hits, the greatest hits, right? So we need to get Vance Bedford. All right, folks. That'll do it for another edition of the Michigan Insider Defensive Breakdown. Back again next week.